And back, you're watching Inside Politics. It's exactly 9 minutes past the top of the hour. Good afternoon from wherever you're tuning in from. We continue with our deliberations right here in studio as we take stock of the latest developments in terms of governance and politics. Right before the break, we had to cut Kennedy short, but Kennedy, I'll allow you to expound on your point briefly before we shift focus to other matters.
Yeah, thank you. I was explaining to my colleagues that, one, the situation we have found ourselves in was orchestrated by the Gen Z's action. And it's the event that has made the president to act in a manner that he has acted. Now, the Gen Z's proposed several reforms, several demands, which actually must be implemented through two means. One, executive action from the president, and also legislative action by parliament. And since they have issues with both the parliament and the president, it was now necessary for us to have a unilateral means, which is now becoming a broad-based structure of how to handle these matters. And now that's why the president said, fine, from where I see it as Kenya Kwanza, we may not have the best solutions to these problems. Now, can we bring these people? He brought in the ODM members so that they can borrow him a leave. And now, since the issue was finance, he has brought in John Badi, who has demonstrated over time his capacity in terms of speeches, expression, and in fact being chairman of PAC. Bringing him to be the chairman of that finance, to be the CS Treasury, is going to give us a chance to understand what could be done better. I think that's the action which now the president has taken. So Gen Zs did not have a mechanism through which their grievances could be addressed, because they were talking of Ruto must go. When you talk about Ruto must go, it means you want to disband government and send us to a state of anarchy. And we cannot afford that. Even to have transition government, we can't have that. So I believe that is the purpose for which the president has acted in this extraordinary manner, to bring these members of opposition. I think it's highly justifiable, and he has brought these people. If these people are not qualified, then parliament will have a duty to vet, verify, and finally forward the right names to the president. And the people also have an avenue to send their memoranda. If they feel that there's some particular individual who is not properly suited a particular position, they bring those memoranda. That was my point.
Interesting. Dr. Ari, give us your take, especially when the lines between the opposition and government get blurred. What should Kenyans expect going forward in the next 2 years?
I think one important thing we should always put into consideration is the fact that if we don't have an opposition within parliament who can even give out information, the issue is not even about voting, because sometimes the way Kenya Kwanza has been behaving in parliament, even before, their number was huge, and therefore regardless of whether you make noise or vote against any bill, they could still succeed. That was the force by number. But now, one important thing that us outside were benefiting from was the fact that they were demystifying the information or the bills that are being tabled. And once those bills are demystified very well, and we understand, as a common people, then we are able to pick up with respective legislature or take the respective actions, including taking them to court, which has been happening. If all of them now speak the same language, and I know our parliamentarians will going to speak the same language, the fact that they were both threatened, both the executive and parliamentarians were threatened in the movement of our young generation. And the fact that our young generation never asked for any power, they only asked for accountability, I still insist there was no need of bringing someone else on board to come and settle a goal so that our young men will lose direction. One important thing that is critical is that even if the current appointments go through, where we will not going to have
how did
anyone
expect that to be done?
Yes, I will give you how it is supposed to be done is very clear. Let me go to how. I think he has asked a very good question.
Yes, sir.
You want to know how the issue that needs to be addressed, or rather the issue that was tabled by Gen Zs to be addressed. One, to reduce cost of living. We don't need 22 or 23 members of cabinet. 22. That way we're going to reduce our expenditures in terms of maintaining or sustaining our wage bill. Secondly, we don't need to bring political goodwills. We are looking at issues one by one. Is our institutions that are mandated to carry out certain roles, EACC, DPP, DCI, are they doing their job? Is it that if a corrupt person or someone who has issues of integrity. Chapter 6 is very clear.
Okay.
People who have been appointed
Okay.
are people whom we know they have issues
I don't want to talk
with
too much on the panel, but you see, that is not being clear. This EACC, this everything were there when the Gen Zs went on the streets. When you're talking about reducing this, what time did they want the president to reduce this when they were busy escalating trouble in the country and they were not giving president any minute to do that?
I don't mean that I don't encourage.
You have tied his hands.
I'm not saying
How
that
we
must have violence.
That is
in the country.
theory.
So, gentlemen,
I have already talked about it in different
gentlemen, it's proper to
discussion.
note that
But
the
I think-
president equally mentioned
Yes.
a raft of measures, and even giving a timeline. Within 90 days, we should expect perhaps the corruption cases to be expounded of, and equally around other issues of accountability. Allow me to shift briefly. Okango, as you come in, I'd like us to focus on the role the opposition parties will be playing going forward, because you're quite categorical in mentioning that Parliament has that role of oversight, but naturally Kenyans would assume that Azimio, as structured, would be the coalition party to hold the government to account due to the fact that it came in second during the last general elections. Let's just listen in to some of the sentiments that were shared by ODM allied members of Parliament as they reacted to and after the nominees were made by President William Ruto.
I want to say those who are in a rush to join Ruto, that Ruto is a passing cloud. I am saying that without a fear of contradiction. I'm urging everybody that joining Ruto is a disaster, is an abomination. It cannot work. I am in total disagreement with James Agriole. He's my senior, he's my friend, but where he's wrong, I will tell him you are wrong. You cannot tell us that we cannot dialogue, that we cannot talk with Ruto, we cannot talk as Kenyans. What is the alternative? We cannot play politics of populism. We cannot play politics of theory. We have been playing politics of theory since independence. That is why we have got these things wrong.
Within the week, as soon as tomorrow, we want to see those other appointments Baba was to forward to him. And we want all of them approved. And Honorable Speaker, if that can happen, then we are going to push this thing very fast. We cannot leave anybody out. And Honorable Speaker, let me send a warning. We want to tell people sending conflicting positions from the ODM to remember that they are on an interim position in those positions.
Wanaotaka kwenda waende kivyao kama individuals. Waache kugawanya Azimio, waache kugawanya members wetu. Wao wana uwezo wa kwenda kivyao, lakini sisi tuko imara na hatutageuka, and we are not boarding in the existing government.
Atupandi na atutaki na atufikiri na atuangali. Kwa hivyo, if you want to appoint Bwana Ruto, appoint your full cabinet tomorrow, but forget about us. We are not interested at all.
ODM party is like an army. 4 of our generals and the brigadiers have deserted duty and they're gone to sleep with our enemy.
We are backing the nominees who were appointed, who were nominated yesterday.
We do not want to fumble by just nominating somebody for the sake of nominating. We wanted also to give this country the best. And I think we have given, the party leader has given out the best that we have.
He raided the opposition to appoint cabinet secretaries in a bid to weaken oversight against his government and to gain cosmetic stability to consider the next general election and to ignore this and the next generation.
All right, an array of voices from the political divide. Okango, conflicting positions from Azimio. As of Thursday, we understood that NAC Kenya has formally rendered its papers to exit the Azimio coalition party.
Given a notice.
They've given a notice. So what exactly will happen to Azimio going forward in terms of its role of oversight? As you've had Babu mentioned, he states that it has been weakened.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jesse, allow me to start from the remarks that have been made by various speakers, politicians.
Yes.
I said earlier that we have a very progressive constitution, and our constitution guarantees freedom of speech. And you have listened to them, they have said what they have to say, that is their right. And two, that right does not extend to vilification of others. That is the law. So we cannot underestimate that. But straight to your answer, to your question, Azimio La Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party is a big tent with so many constituent parties, to be precise, 23. And all these people think differently, while they are governed by same ideology and principles. However, because that coalition is so democratic, it allows everyone who has a dissenting opinion to say it the way you want to say it, because he enjoys the provisions of freedom of speech. Raila Odinga said that his party had given certain conditions that the government of the day must meet. One of them is compensation of all those families that lost their loved ones during the protest. Not only this last protest, but also in the last year, the 75 plus the over 60 today. Raila Odinga also said that those who are arrested, detained incommunicado, abducted Gestapo style, must also be released. And I saw the president say that he will do that. I saw State of the Nation in the Senate. They actually put it on the floor and said, this must happen. We believe that that will happen. Raila Odinga also said, those who are in hospitals, for whatever reasons, those bills must be paid. I am talking like this because I am driving a point of, first of all, acceptance of the wrongs done. When Saul was going to Damascus, on his way, he realized there are certain things that he has done that are wrong. And first of all, for reconciliation to happen, acceptance of the wrongs done must happen first. Okay. There has been an acceptance that the police used excessive force. There has been an acceptance that the police were brutal. There has been acceptance that property were lost. There has been acceptance that people died. Once we accept that, then address that. And that's why Raila Odinga said preconditions prior to the engagement. Now, I am sure the Gen Z will be happy to see some of these things happen. The Azimio in Parliament remains Azimio in Parliament. The Azimio outside Parliament, our good leader, Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, has stepped up. He is outside and he has been categorical. He said he's not joining, and he has said he will continue putting pressure on the government of the day to ensure that the issues of concern to the people are addressed. He's doing his role as a leader outside Parliament. Those who are in Parliament, Babu Owino has said they will continue to put pressure within Parliament. Nothing has changed. Yeah. The only thing that people are not seeing is the fact that a top leadership of ODM, who the president has felt that these are people that I can tap into their expertise to go and help me address this better agenda. Right. That is the issue. So me, from where I sit, and this is my personal opinion, I think that because of the freedom of expression we enjoy, because of the right of political decision in Article 38 we enjoy, we allow everyone. That's why Raila Odinga said he has released the 4 from his party to go and perform the duties, if they succeed, the duties that they are assigned by the president. We want to see them do that. I am confident enough that when those names come before Parliament, even the Azimio members of Parliament who sit there in the vetting committee will look at them not as ODM, but as Kenyans who they want to see their suitability, their competency, their capability, and their personal integrity, and say is as is, because that is what is expected of them. And lastly, this is a political situation. And I must tell you, in politics, it's only a fool who can say, I will never. If you hear a politician say, I will never do this, I will never do this, give him 1 year. They will do exactly what they say they never do. And that's why the Prime Cabinet Secretary today is the Prime Cabinet Secretary. During the election, he said that this is the bottom up. Turn the water upside down and show us the bottom. Today, he is addressing and perpetuating the bottom-up economic agenda. Politics, a day in politics is a long time. We want to address this issue of Gen Z. I'm sure President Ruto want to address it, opposition us want to address it. But we cannot address it without structures. We want structures. The Gen Z told the president, I attended one of the expresses, they told the president that they want to see end of corruption, they want to see inclusivity, they want to see end of negative ethnicity, they want to see the debt lowered, they want to see corruption end. How is the president going to address this issue? First of all, he must listen to them. Number two, Gen Z must offer tangible solutions in addressing that as a public participation means so that they are articulated. Lastly, Parliament must step up and look at these issues. The president said there are certain laws as far as anti-corruption laws, integrity that will be amended. Parliament just came back from recess. It is our expectation as people outside that Parliament will step up and relook at those laws. First of all, he also said that the issues of matters taking so long in court, 30 days, 60 days, I want to ask the people of Kenya. Yes. We are here today, and every time you find yourself at crossroads, you must step back. Raila Odinga keeps teaching us that sometimes you must retreat to advance. I want to ask Kenyans, please retreat and advance. We have only one country. I'm not saying there's something wrong, but we're saying we have only one country, that all of us must be guided by the principle of national values and the governance, so that we progress.
So Okango has painted a realistic picture. Wakili, as you come in, how does the opposition move forward? Do you see, as it has been weakened, that oversight role, will it be the same? Do you expect ODM MPs to shoot down Finance Bill 2025 next year if John Mbadi is seated at the Treasury and he needs that money?
Just opposition wamekulwa. Okango is speaking well, and I think he means well, but I just want to remind him that Saul, after he met the Lord on the way to Damascus, God sent him to a certain woman to pray for him. He did not send him to the Sanhedrin in Jerusalem. He did not send him to the people he was working with. So, and that is where the stark difference is in our country. In our case, when trying to resolve the Gen Z problems and the national issues about corruption, about briberies, about incompetence, lack of proper governance, the head of state turned to ODM. That is the difference. And that is at the moment where the youth feel that it is not working. And by the way, it is true that it is not working. I will tell you, let me take you back. You must understand William Ruto as a person and historically as a politician. William Ruto has never really migrated from the philosophy of Moism. How Moi led the country. The notion of one-party democracy is still deeply rooted in our president. When immediately elections were concluded in 2022, you saw that he went all the way and poached quite a number of politicians to not just come and work with him as a coalition, but to come to Kenya Kwanza and lead the nation together. And you remember UDM and several other members, even members of ODM. I think there's a Mr. Ocheng in Siaya or something like that. So in the political scientist called William Ruto, his main aim is to demoralize and totally annihilate what is called opposition. That is his major agenda. If you look at him, he was stuck in State House for some time. People thought like he's probably going to have some, surprises and medical issues even. He was healthy, but plotting and calculating what can I do to silence the voice of the opposition and the voice of multi-party democracy. And he has succeeded. Why would he go for Mbadi when you have several professionals in the accounting and the finance industry who still can be prodded or proposed by ODM itself? ODM can sit together and say, for us, let us appoint so-and-so, and so-and-so, and so-and-so, who are not in the political whatever, who are not in ODM, active politics. Why was that very difficult? There is no answer to that. Now, having said that, Jesse, you see, therefore, that the line between executive and the political parties, particularly the opposition, is completely being diminished because William Ruto would be more happy if he worked with one unit going forward rather than having opposing voices from the other side of opposition. So if you understand that, then you will appreciate the fact that it was impossible for him to go actually to the professional field. Okay. The whole intention here is actually to totally annihilate the opposition. Before I finish, structures in this country are not correct. If you take the best of the brains to the government today, they might still be tempted to be corrupt. They might be tempted to ask for bribes. When you walk into government buildings, right from the gate to the door to the floor you are going, everyone is asking you, niaje mzee, ni baridi sana, what do we do? You know, I mean, that is the way we have run down our institutions. Okay. So unless the structures change, so that the person who comes in is normally working within a structure where it is extremely difficult either to be corrupt or to accept bribes or to be incompetent. What is incompetent? It should be so easy to know this is incompetence. Okay. But when we leave it to interpretation and, you know, that is where the problem is. So our structure should be changed. Political parties should not be poached. Multi-party should thrive through head of state respecting opposition as it is.
All right, I'm seated here wondering if ODM as a party will threaten to discipline these members who have gone with the blessings of Raila to join government. Because in the case of, case in point, Ogenda, who decided to work with the government of the day, we definitely saw the party's top brass rain down on him. So it would be interesting to see if that's a similar
but
case.
But yes, that is a wrong analogy, because Ogenda was not nominated to cabinet. Ogenda remained a member of parliament sponsored by ODM party, and he went contrary to the rules and regulation of ODM. He went to the government. Yes. In this instance, the members that the president has nominated to his cabinet are members of ODM, and the law requires them to resign before joining cabinet. Ogenda was not interested in seeking fresh elections. So therefore, he remained ODM while working the other side. They're totally different.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
But
Asante,
no,
we need to...
On that clarification, I have an issue.
Briefly.
My brother Okango said earlier on that there is no opposition in parliament and there is no political party per se once you have been elected to the office as a parliamentarian, and your job is to do your work the way it is prescribed in the constitution. Contrary to that, he's saying now an opposition, a member of parliament who has given his opinion contrary to the party's will, which is not correct, because the party's will sometimes is individually based interest. It is no longer the interest of the people who have brought you to that office. Then it is a bit contradictory, my brother. So I think the best thing to say is that we do have existence of a lot of influence of politicians or political parties in parliament. And therefore, members of parliament, members of parliament fail to do their job.
There's what is called deeming by resignation by deeming. When you manifest the ideology of another party while you are a member of another one, you shall be deemed to have resigned. That is the expression that the ODM was applying. But as it is today, that has been amended, and we hope that that political parties act passes so that we understand what is deeming.
All right, Kennedy, briefly.
Let me say,
briefly, Daktari,
just 1 minute. I agree with you.
Let's say,
and I'm telling you,
briefly.
Just take this thing easy. People change their mind.
Simple. Only a fool doesn't change their mind. But what does it mean to democracy as we know it? That's the question we need to
What we need to discuss going forward. What is it about changing minds when it comes to democracy? Is it dependable? Is it predictable? Are we able to predict what is the next action? So for me, I'm saying ODM have changed their mind. Everybody has changed his mind. Now that the minds have changed, now all minds have changed. Can we now start from the new cabinet going forward?
Okay. We need to take a short break, gentlemen. Allow us to do that. As we come back, we'll open our phone lines so we can definitely hear from you back at home. Give us your take in terms of the issues we've been able to canvass. What's your take on the cabinet appointees? Do they have the face of Kenya when it comes to competency? Does it meet that criteria? Equally, what happens to the opposition as we know it going forward? Those are the questions we'll be posing for you back at home. We take that break. We'll be back in a few.